another edition of the Applebox Podcast. I am Greta.
I'm Luke.
And today, I want you all to imagine that you had a bodyguard who was always with you.
A bodyguard.
He did all the usual bodyguard things like protect you from danger,
Mm-hmm.
ward off assailants, and keep you generally safe from all situation.
Including demons?
Including demons. But he did more than this because he offered you emotional and moral guidance, helped you to be a stronger person, and lead you to your ultimate calling in life.
Sounds like a great person.
Who is this guy?
Who are we talking about, Greta?
We're talking about our guardian angels.
Guardian angels.
So that's our topic for today.
Topic for episode 5.
Indeed.
Let us jump into it.
So, when you think about guardian angels and situations in your life, or even Hmong culture, what comes to mind?
When I think of guardian angels or stuff like in Hmong cultures is when I think about it, it's more like the ancestors are watching over you. And maybe I guess a shaman could be seen as part guardian angel or something like that, because he goes between realms or like spiritual planes to negotiate for your spirit when you're like sick or something. Because when you're sick, that means part of your soul is sick, or part of your spirit is missing. So
right.
He goes into the spiritual realm, and then he negotiates with the spirits, and he gets your soul back, so that in turn you become well again. So I guess in the Hmong culture, like either that or ancestors, you pay homage to them so they keep you safe and all that stuff. So yeah, they look out for you like that. That's what I think of.
So basically, it's like you pray, or not, well, you give offerings to people to basically be like, hey, like, so in the Hmong culture, like, do you believe that people are assigned an angel at birth? Like, do they have someone that watches over them? Or is it more just like you have deities that can help you in certain situations? Like,
I wouldn't say assigned, but I would say like it is just the people who have gone before you that like they're just watching over you, because you're supposed to pay homage to them and respect to them so that they're not forgotten. And if you do that, then they're happy. Like if you don't remember like your familial ties, and like bad stuff are gonna happen because you forgot about your family. Like those are the people who are gonna keep you safe forever. So
it's less about having someone who, not even someone, something.
Yeah.
That when you are born is there going to be there for you all the time, and it's more just about your ancestors watching out for your ass.
Yeah. So it's not like a guardian angel, like he has a file on me and like, oh, he's born on this date, and you're like, I'm just watching over him, just see the whole log. It's more like we were here before and you're part of our lineage, so we'll keep you safe or whatever, so long as you remember us and all the stuff like that.
So that's so cool, because I feel like my interpretation has always been like there's, I don't know, like one angel, or I mean you might have more than one, but just that like they pick you and like you're like their little thing that they're watching out for and want to hope the best for, to keep from danger.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever put any thought into it, like do I have a guardian angel, but like it's definitely been like there has been like situations that's like, oh, I guess that worked out for the best, and someone's looking out, or like like something is like bringing all this good stuff to me and like keeps me in the right headspace in hard times and stuff like that. So yeah.
I've often wondered too, like when people say that they've heard Jesus speak to them. Yeah. It's like I've wondered sometimes. It's like, is that Jesus, or is that their guardian angel like looking out for them sometimes? Like not, and I'm saying like, how do I say it? Not all the time. Like there might be distinctly Jesus moments, but just smaller things like the little voice in your head or something that's like, hey, don't do that. Like, is that Jesus, or is that your guardian angel being like, yo, bro, watch out?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Conscious.
Or it's consciousness.
Yeah.
That's right. And who knows? I mean, but I think sometimes it's like your guardian angel, I feel like, would be in control of more of the bigger stuff. Like that car accident you almost got into, but somehow managed to skid out of. Or I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting part too. It's like it was the summertime, and we were driving. We were far away from home, maybe about an hour, and like our buddies were ahead of us, and they pulled off to the side, and he checked, but the lady behind us maintained the same speed, so he didn't see her coming. So for some reason he pulled a U-turn right away because he thought he was clear, right? That's because he thought he was clear. He thought he was good to go. And like she continued at the same momentum. She hit him, and we thought she hit his door. Like we thought she had pinned him in the door, and like the door was like crushing his legs or something, but like she hit the front fender, like just where the wheel was. And so like if she had been going any faster or any slower, if he had turned any quicker or slower, like he would have been like in a worse condition that he was in. And he walked away like basically unscathed. The car was, totaled, but like the best outcome that happened with an accident, like it took place. And it's like, what are the odds of that happening? Like, had any other variable been slightly off, like he would have been like, his leg would have been broken or something, or like the door would have been pinned, and we would have had to like drag him out and like, all that stuff, and it would have been way worse. But like they both came out unscathed in that car.
Well, it's like what we always say, like what are the odds?
Yeah, like it's crazy. Like, I don't know, maybe that was an instance of, a guardian angel, like, but I don't know how that unfolded like that, but divine, borderline divine.
And that's something else too. Like I think about like, why am I at school, right? Mm-hmm. And like how that all falls into place, and like the people that I meet, like there'll be times, and I've had this happen to me many times, and call it intuition or consciousness, but I sometimes think that there's a little bit more going on personally. But I feel like sometimes, like if I'm even things like if I forget something, like for instance last week during the Nobel conference or whatever, I forgot my phone charger, and I had to go back to the art room, and I was like, crap. So I had to run back. As I'm running back to grab my phone charger, I run into the lady who worked with me and did a bunch of therapy with me when I was a child, who was there for the conference that I hadn't seen for like 12 years.
That's crazy. No
and
way.
She forgot her seat cushion that she was going back for.
And you guys just happened to run into each other
at that moment. That would have never happened had I not forgotten the charger, and had she not have that happen.
That's insane.
And I was pissed because I'm like, why did I forget my fucking phone charger?
Right.
And then I'm like, obviously this was supposed to happen.
That's crazy.
And just things like that, like small things that,
like maybe not guardian angel, but like divine intervention, something like that.
That too. Like I don't know. I just feel like sometimes, or it's just like, if I'm like, God, things aren't working out, like what's going on? And then it's like all of a sudden there'll be like this little thing that I'm like, now
all the puzzle pieces
it's coming together.
Yeah.
Like Gustavus, for instance, like coming, like, oh man.
Wait, that's a good segue into like, do you believe like there's fate? Like, do you have control over your life,
or like predeterminism? Right?
I don't know. I think okay. I think that we have a fate, if you will. But it's,
is it flexible?
Here. It's not flexible, but we make it, like, we have a choice whether we actually follow that path or not. And sometimes when we think that path is the path, it's not the right path.
So then it comes back onto the right path.
Right. Okay. But like, I think sometimes even people who go down the wrong path, they're like, well, this is my path in life. And then it's like, is that really the path? Or is like, I don't know. I just think there's
choosing that.
Right. And I think it's like our conception of what the right path is not always what it, I don't know. Am I making sense?
I think the way I think about it is like, if you heard of the video game, like Detroit Become Human, like all that stuff, like there's like, for every person, you have a gigantic amount of paths that they can go down.
I'm looking at your shirt.
Paths, yeah.
It's got two roads and cars going in different directions.
But yeah, it's like I think of like an analogy like that. Like it's one person has many different paths that they can go down, and at every different turn, then they can go veer off on one path, but then a decision will bring them onto one path, and then go the other direction, go to another path, or all the way to the other side of another path.
It's like a butterfly effect.
Yeah, so it's like a butterfly effect, and you can go to any one of your determined paths, like predetermined paths. But
do you believe in like multiple universes where like each of those instances happen,
and it creates a new universe?
No.
Like at every decision, it creates a new universe.
Like do you believe in that? It just kind of
maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
That's a little beyond my pay grade. Right. But I do think though, like for a long time, the typical existential artist, like that fact of like, how many paths could I have gone down and like what would have happened,
Yeah.
or like what could happen. Just when you start thinking about that, it's deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep. But it's not, I don't know. Like, I think too, now at least, it totally makes sense why I'm here. Like, this podcast would have never happened had I not made decisions that I made.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Had we had not met.
No. Had we had not, met just randomly, completely randomly.
Oh, for sure.
If I didn't know about the radio.
If
club,
I didn't know about the radio, exactly.
I didn't know either until last semester, literally. So
Had I not initiated contact with you,
No,
this would never happen. Had I not had the courage to initiate contact with you.
Nope.
What the fuck?
Nope.
That's crazy to think of. Had I not said something to you in the dive.
It's insane.
That first dive
That's
night.
what I mean.
Had I not said anything.
Weird
right,
stuff,
wait, yeah,
man.
I was there too. The first dive.
Yeah,
so we were all...
and I said something to Greta, and I didn't get her name for four days after that. But had I not said something, like, this would have never happened.
No.
Yeah, I was
had Justin
chilling,
not pushed me to say, that's her, go get her name, this wouldn't have happened.
I was only chilling with you because I saw you in soccer tryouts. So
Right.
I
was like, this kid is hanging around me. He's cool. Like, I came to find out that you're actually fucking cool, but like it's crazy. Like, we met each other at soccer tryouts, and then we have to dive.
Yeah, after all this evidence, I do truly think there's some sort of fate out there. Like, even though we may think that we're in charge of our own decisions, but ultimately I think it's just ends up in the, I guess, like, in my analogy, I have a Christian background, so it's like God's plan,
right?
And like, I believe that all these like suffering or good hardships or whatever is it's there for a reason, and I think it's just all interwoven.
And I feel like we try to control it so much too. Like, I think we've always talked about this. Like, everybody has a different path in life, and like, it's not going to always go straight and narrow.
Right.
But like, we oftentimes think like, oh, if we control this certain thing, like if we try to go down a certain career that whatever we just want to go down or whatever, but everything in our path keeps telling us like, well, hey, that's not working out. But then you're like, I'm still going to do it. It's like, okay, you might want to listen to that and try these other things that obviously are like eating away at your life.
Yeah, I think one point to Daniel's thing, we're talking in religious practice, like, because we have so much of a wanting or yearning for purpose or the ultimate concern. So the ultimate concern is something that you have ultimate concern for, and then you choose over everything, like in instances where you have to choose and compromise. So like, because we have such a yearning for the ultimate, whether that's meeting God or going to heaven or whatever religious denomination you fall into, like, because we have such a yearning for that, a yearning to have purpose in life or to be good and well, then there is that experience is evidence for like a higher being or something like that.
Well, and I think that's again like the purpose of a guardian angel is they're there to basically be like, God's little helper, to be like, hey, listen, like, or spiritual helper. You don't even have to believe in God, I don't feel like, to think that there's something looking out for you. It's just, it's more just spiritual, divine than rather, it could be an alien for all we know, honestly.
Thor. Technically, he's an alien in the Marvel universe.
Technically speaking.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the idea of, wanting to keep us on the straight and narrow so that we don't screw up. Because, I don't know, it just makes sense to have someone or something, I guess, guiding you. Because I feel like, to me, God does affect us in, our everyday lives, but I feel like sometimes I think, not that he's preoccupied with bigger stuff, but big things like earthquakes and tornadoes and like, I don't know, it makes sense to have someone who could be there for you individually.
Wait, that's a good question about the earthquake part. Like, like tragedies happen. Why do you think like, God lets that happen?
Well, that's a good question. I think the thing with God is that he's forgiving, yes, but he also has a wrath, and that's something that people neglect to realize. I forget specifically what section it's in the Bible, but I know there's a part where they talk about how, if there's a city of...
Oh, there's a lot, and where it's like, please, God, please don't blow up the city.
Right.
If there's less than 50 or something, like true, like non-sinners.
And he's like, for the sake of those, I like wouldn't.
Yeah. And then like eventually he bartered down to like 10 or like some low number. And in the end, it still wasn't enough because the city was just that wicked.
Yeah.
I guess my stance on like why these things happen is kind of like, I think the wrath is like, it's for people who don't like know him,
right?
In my opinion, and it's just all the bad things are just because the world's a wicked place, and
I agree.
You know, like believers have to like choose, I guess, to believe in him. Otherwise, you know, the whole world is just a godless like society, anyways, and full of sin,
right?
And there's nothing God can do if you don't believe. And it's just, I guess it's all, you know, it's like Satan is ruining everyone or something. But
yeah, and I think too, like we can, and that's another thing too. It's all about perspective. Like we can choose to look at a bad situation and go, "Well, my life's gonna end," or you can be like, "Well,
it's a trial.
It's a trial." Yeah.
That's how I see everything. Everything's a trial. Every hardship, every conflict, every part where I'm feeling uncomfortable, it's a trial, and it's for me to grow and learn from. And that's every situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Have you ever had any experiences where you felt like your ancestors were like?
I mean, that's for traditional Hmong people, and I'm a Christian Hmong person.
Right.
Not to say we don't still have traditional beliefs.
I mean, do you still feel like they're there, like watching over you?
Yeah,
or?
For sure. It's always a thought that, like, you know, my dad is up there with his mom and his brother and his sister, and his brothers and his sister or whatever, and whoever else he lost. Like they're reunited, and you know they're watching over us constantly, and you know, especially when I'm fishing. I think I'm, whether I know it or not, or feel it or not, like my dad's there with me, and you know, because it throughout the years it came down to just me and him going fishing. So like it was just me and him early enough to see the sunrise, and you know, leave late enough to see the sunset. So it's like whenever I see a sunrise when I'm out fishing, it's like, yeah, I'm standing with Pops, like I'm fishing with Pops, and I'm having fun, and like no matter if I catch fish, if I do, then you know, blessings be to the Lord and him, like he brought me fish, brought me joy or whatever, and like, and if I don't, then I still have a good time anyways, because I'm out on the water, and that's something that me and my dad did, and I know he'd be happy if we were there. So like, you know, he's watching over me, or he's beside me, whatever, in that experience and all that. So that's what I feel, and other stuff too. It's like, you know, you never forget about family anyways,
right?
Especially in, you know, collectivist culture and all that stuff, and so you really never forget that they were there and they gave everything for you, and then like that effect lasts for generations or whatever. Like I said in the last episode, like all that stuff just sticks with you.
Yeah. I think that's really true, and I guess I haven't felt that personally connected with, I guess, my quote unquote, you know, ancestors or whatever. But my mom definitely has been really connected with my grandfather, because she's a very, very, very lucid dreamer. And so she has a lot of very like interesting dreams about experiences of like deceased people coming, like, so that
was my brother with my dad, but
oh really? So talk about that.
Well, I mean, you can go first.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say that like she has dreams about like my grandmother too, and I just like, it's always like some kind of message or something, and then it's like not like, you know, prediction, but there are those times, and like at first my dad was kind of like, oh, like, ugh, you dream whatever, but then after that he kind of started realizing like, oh, sometimes this is right, like I should probably listen to when she ever dreams, because like sometimes it does manifest itself that way,
right?
Which is crazy. But usually they're just reflections of whatever happened during the day, which is processing, so technically it's not really a prediction, it's just you thinking about things. But anyway, tell your story.
Yeah, no, my brother, the one that everyone compares me to, Ali, like I remember he was telling my mom that he was in the group chat, and he was like, if any of you guys like had dreams about dad, and like I had like very vivid dreams of dad or whatever, and then like I think it was around maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas, like the first holiday without dad being there. Like my brother was like, yeah, I saw dad last night. Like he came to talk to me, and like he was speaking Hmong, like, and even though my brother doesn't really understand Hmong that well, he can't speak it that well, like he understood him, and it was weird.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah, dad was like, one, don't worry anymore, it's okay, but two, also like it's sad to see you guys, like, because I'm here and I can't be with you guys. And he was like it makes me very sad but very happy at the same time, because like we're still trying to enjoy life. And like I was like, holy shit, like you saw dad like that? And I was like, that was crazy. And then I think he said he had a few more instances of my dad visiting him in dreams too. And then like I think my oldest brother, I think all of us have had dreams like that too. But I had dreams where like it was just my dad, like very, very like common scene between me and my dad. Like he's driving me to soccer practice,
right,
or something like that. And like we passed by a lake or something, and he's like, you think there's a lot of fish in there? Like maybe we'll come fish like next time. Like maybe you, me, and mom or whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty common of dad. And like I had another dream where we're walking on a shoreline somewhere, and it's like we're talking about fishing or whatever. And so that's one thing. Or I don't know. I had one
metaphors to draw from that.
Maybe I had one of him recently. It was him driving, and then it was my oldest brother, I think, in the passenger seat, and it was me in the seat behind the driver, and then my older brother next to me. And there had to have been a back row for my two other brothers, but I think it was just all the guys in the family in the car, and we were driving somewhere, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about something. And that was, I think that was the day, like the day before I woke up feeling like very tired, like super duper tired and like sick.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that happened, but like I just remember having a dream of him, and like they're pretty vivid. Maybe they're in my dream log somewhere, but yeah, like I have dreams of my dad sometimes.
Wow.
And one thought that always also comes to my mind that I wrote in my journal for class, it's like when you can read in someone else's voice and cadence. Like I can read a passage in your voice. I can read a passage in Daniel's voice.
Yep.
I can read a passage in Margot's voice or Rachel's voice. And it's like, it's crazy. Like how long does it take your brain to encode someone's voice and speech pattern into your head, right? And then to have that, but then also to have it for people who are deceased.
Yeah.
Like I can hear something in my dad's voice, and it's crazy. Like I wonder how long it takes your brain to do that. And so that also leads into a question of multiple universes, because it's like your brain just copies people, their likeness or their voice and their cadence into your head, and it just creates a whole different reality in your head, and they can live on in there, and it's crazy. Like I wonder how long it takes to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I find it really fascinating, because like, so for example, I don't think I've ever had a dream that I can even, and I as you know do, like I dream, like I have really weird dreams,
right?
But like I never dream of anyone who's deceased, but I dream of pets who are deceased.
Really?
So that's always a weird thing to me. Like my dad, I never have a dream of him, but like my oppa, nobody, like I just don't, and I don't really know why. Usually they're very realistic, but they're also very abstract. So it's usually like a situation where I'm, I don't know, just really, animals are always in my dreams. It's weird. But like, I had a dream one time, two actually, but one that was really, really vivid. But I was in my backyard, and my grandmother's dog, Baron, who is this giant white Great Pyrenees, he died, and I played with him all the time as a kid, and he's in our backyard, and he was just running around, and he had this bright like golden beam of like shimmering light around him, and it's like, it's so hard to describe because it's just like so like vividly bright and like shimmery, like that's the only like way I can describe it. And it's like the whole backyard was just like glowing because of him, and he was just like running around, and like it was a very tactile thing, because it felt like you could touch him. Like it wasn't, these are like films always portray things as being very ethereal,
right? And
it's like, it's not like Brother Bear. Like these were like actual like
Brother Bear.
Like I could totally like go up to him and like pet him and whatever. And he was just he was the happiest flipping dog. And I was like, wow, like I felt so happy. And like, I was like, dude, like dogs go to heaven. This is so cool. Yeah. And then I had another dream where right shortly after my grandmother's cat died, I had a dream that I woke up in my bed, and when I sat up, in my closet was Sedona, my grandma's cat, in this like box in the closet, and she was just like staring at me with like this super pissed face, which is, was she a Persian, so that was pretty typical.
Right.
But like still, it's just the fact of like, I don't know why, like people I can't manifest in my head for some reason. And I don't know why that is. But I mean, it makes sense too, because you obviously knew your father and his cadence and his voice a lot longer than I did. So like I have no visual or like audio memory of speech happening. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So I have messages. So my brother on December 12th, 2018, he was like, so I had a dream last night. Dad was in it, and he was just letting me know that he made it home, and he showed me grandma and grandpa. Wow. And he said he was face to face with them, and then he woke up. And that's crazy because we've never met our grandpa on our dad's side.
That's insane.
We only have a picture. Like that's the only thing. Insane. And like my brother was like, yeah, like he said he made it home, and he was face to face with grandma and grandpa and dad.
Wow.
And that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was like, you know, fucking insane.
Well, if you want to talk about, you know, out of body experiences or whatnot, my grandfather, the Italian one, he had a cochlear implant and a bunch of heart issues, but he couldn't hear squat. Like if he didn't have that cochlear implant in, he could not hear a bomb go off. Like that's how deaf he was.
That's insane.
Well, right on his deathbed, he'd been praying a bunch, and basically towards the end, about I think it was like 5 to 7 days before he passed, he woke up just in tears. And my grandma was like, "What's wrong?" He's like, No, Judy." He's like, "I woke up," and he's like, "I heard the most beautiful."
Yeah, I remember this story.
He's like, "I heard the most beautiful singing. I heard the most beautiful singing I had ever heard in my entire life." And he's like, he's like, "There are no words to explain it." He's like, it was just, there are no words. Like he was speechless. And he said he smelled roses, like a super intense scent of roses.
Yeah, I remember this story.
Yeah, and it was like, that was a constant thing for him. Like he would sometimes, it's like if he was praying, like he would just start smelling roses. Or like my mom, even, I remember one time, she said that his, the rosaries that he had, she said at one point, he said that they had turned gold, which to me is just crazy. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's like, you don't want to believe it, but at the same time, it's like, how can you, like, I don't know.
Insane.
It's just, even if it's the brain doing things, like,
yeah,
that's crazy to me. Like, for someone deaf to hear.
Yeah, that's I guess I want to relate this to, you know, like the Book of Daniel, where like dreams are actually significant.
Daniel.
Yeah, okay.
The pun is so strong.
I think we're like, you know, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon at the time, is getting all these vivid dreams. And like, I guess just something about dreams. I mean, me personally, I can't remember many. You should
start writing them down. Then they get really vivid.
No, like sometimes, like, I don't know, like when I try to like wake up at like 5 a.m. because like, and then it's like, never mind. And then I have like the most lucid dreams after that. But then it's like, and then I forget it 2 minutes after I wake up. It's like,
right.
But like, it felt something. And I don't know what, I guess there needs to be more research in like the neuroscience of that.
Well, but I mean, I know that like, so if you want to talk about the sleep cycle, you know, when you're out, you're in REM and you're just out like a flippin' light. But if you wake up and then go back to sleep, you're in a lighter sleep cycle. So your consciousness is in a really weird limbo. You're still asleep, don't get me wrong, but it's not nearly as deep of a sleep, and that's when all the wacky stuff.
So that's where the lucid dreaming, where you can like control yourself.
That's like fever dreams, like. So oftentimes there's an argument too that like lucid dreamers often don't get as much rest, which is why they tend to go to bed earlier. which is almost counterproductive because they can't sleep as well. So it's a whole thing, but yeah, fascinating.
Nice.
Anyway, Daniel, if you want recommendations, I would say, go to bed earlier because you'll dream more if you wake up slowly. But that's so hard in today's society.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too super deep into this dreaming stuff.
Right.
I don't have a dream catcher in my corner or anything. So
I don't either. So.
But they are significant.
They are.
Culture.
Yeah.
Wise.
110, 19.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just throughout history, just dreams and things like that. I know a lot of times in my dreams too, like they'll be very random for one.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're extremely violent, but that's the other thing too. I've never had a nightmare, like an official nightmare. I've never had because I'm always aware that I'm conscious in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So even if something terrifying is happening, like say I'm getting shot or something, I'm like, well, this isn't actually me. So it doesn't.
You're in a dream.
Yeah.
It's like you're the Matrix. It's like, I know this is all fake.
Yeah. And like there's been times too, like I'll have dreams of a project I'm working on, and then I'm like consciously able to like evaluate like, oh, well, what happens if I add this? And I can like add in a bunch of like animated like butterflies in there or something, and then it's like, I don't know, it's weird.
Because the funny thing about my lucid dreams is whenever I realize that my surrounding is not real, I wake up.
Oh
yeah, so it's like,
that's
wait,
fascinating.
that doesn't seem right. I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't. So then I wake up. Oh my God.
You're like, wait a minute, bro, this isn't happening. That's
and
funny.
Then I can't really recall any of them because I don't have a dream journal or anything. But
I don't keep a dream journal really either. Usually I end up just doing sketches because I've noticed that what happens is that as I start writing, I start waking up. Mm-hmm. And then my writing my hand's tired, for one. Like, it's hard to write when you first wake up. But for two, it's like I can't go fast enough to keep up with my...
I mean, it doesn't have to be in pencil.
I just put it in my phone.
Yeah, right.
I know, but I never...
And as soon as I started trying to recall them, like, very vividly, then everything else got crazy. Like, my dreams after that got insane.
Really?
And now, going back into it, I don't even remember writing some of these down.
Dude.
But then it's like, yeah, I remember them so crazily because I practiced remembering it.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I do like a really fast sketch, and and then I can look at the image and be like, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
insane.
not that disappointed.
And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wait, I got 15 minutes until class or something.
But it does reveal a lot about your your subconscious.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because it's like you're alone with it's like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Dreams are so cool, man. Oh, they're so cool.
Going back to Guardian Angels.
Oh, yeah.
You got anything to share on that?
Just
Greta?
random thing, but do people in comas dream? I'm just wondering.
I don't know. CT scans of people in comas, brain activity scans.
Because I heard stories where people like can hear like their surroundings like when they're in the coma. I'm not sure about like the dreaming aspect.
I mean, technically speaking, people in comas can't dream because they don't have a normal sleep wake cycle.
Yeah.
So they can't. Normally, you wake up, you have your day, you go to sleep, your brain downloads and digests all the material and reorganizes it into little categories and puts it in little files.
It's like Inside Out.
Yeah, exactly. Like I used to, like I always like to explain it like you have like a bunch of cabinet files in your brain, and throughout the day, your little like people inside your brain are like basically writing, filling out paperwork, and then it's like at the end of the day, well, what do? They stay up at night, working the night shift, organizing and refiling all that information. But anyway, so then what happens is that
activation synthesis, that's what it was.
Yeah. But then when you dream, it's like your consciousness of what's happening when your brain's trying to sort and process things. So like even if you watch a really weird like movie the night before, it's like, oh, I had a terrible dream. Well, it's probably because you watched a really weird movie. Like, it's just what happens. They've done so many studies on this stuff. But back to comas. Technically, because they don't have a normal sleep-wake cycle, they don't dream. But a lot of people who wake up from comas report having a dream or some out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that could happen when they're leaving a coma or initially entering a coma. I don't know how that works.
Me neither.
But I don't think they don't have the same, like...
Yeah, because if you can't complete the sleep cycle of, like, going from stage 1 all the way to REM and coming back up, then I don't know if you can have dreams or not.
I mean, I think it would be you coming out of a coma. You'd like, because usually they're like, oh, like I woke up from a coma and I realized like all this stuff happened. I don't know. Or like if they're moving you and like somehow you're like kind of aware of that. Because I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who go into comas and they're still like they can still feel touch and things, but they can't. I don't know. Comas are weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Comas are weird.
It's a whole nother conversation.
So weird.
Yeah.
Wait, before I cut you guys off, did you guys mention something before I asked that?
Greta had something really interesting about guardian angels.
Yeah, so I heard my guardian angel once.
You heard?
I heard my guardian angel.
And you heard the name.
I heard the name of my guardian angel.
Which do you want to start with? What makes more sense to start with?
Well, no, it was the same event.
Same event.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
continue.
I was, and I don't know what was going on in my brain that day. So, make what you want of the situation, but here's what happened. So I was not having a good day. This was back in like, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade. I was not having a good day. It was just terrible. I was like a hot mess. And I decided that I would draw and do whatever. So I was like working with some chalk, having a good time, and after whatever, and came inside. It was a kind of a cool day. Came inside, put my coat away, putting my shoes away. And as I'm putting my shoes away, I hear this like really soft, high-pitched voice out of nowhere. And like my mom was in the office, or like she was in the kitchen area.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was literally nobody else around me.
This is in your landing and you're taking off your shoes.
Yeah. Okay. I was taking off shoes and it was like super quiet and I was like, I don't know what I was doing. I was like fixing my sock or something.
This is the same house that I've been to.
No.
Oh,
okay. I've lived in like 8 or 9 houses.
Yeah. Okay. So different house.
Yeah, this is like
childhood.
Yeah.
So your mom's nowhere near you.
No one's near me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking off my shoes and I hear this really high-pitched, whispery, soft voice and she's like, "Hi, I'm Sarah." And like that was like all it was.
What the
And I was like, and at first I was like, is there like a witch in here? Like what the
That's crazy.
Like what the hell? But the weird thing was I got this feeling of like joy and calm. Like it wasn't like a like spooky like hi, I'm like, right. It was like hi, like a genuinely inviting, exciting sound. And I was like, holy fuck, what just happened? And I told my mom and I was like, I just heard someone, and she was like,
eesh, that's chills right now. That's chills. What
like,
the hell?
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
It's like I see dead people.
And so you take that as that was your guardian angel.
I do, because
introducing yourself.
I forgot about it for a long time, and quite honestly, until now, I haven't remembered it.
Yeah.
But it's weird when I say that, because I feel like when I say that like, ooh, I don't know. It's weird.
Do you still see Sarah?
I don't. Well, but here's the thing: is I wonder if it's like she's not as prevalent. But I mean, there's situations like.
Right.
I always joke with, new people that I'm around. It's like, if you stick around me long enough, weird stuff will start to happen. Like, it's just that, like, I don't know. It's like, I think it's because I'm conscious of, like, my intuition a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually act on it, where a lot of people are just like, oh, I thought about doing that, but I didn't.
Right.
I'm more like, ooh, I thought about that. I'm going to do it. Which, can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. That was my experience with that. And I also had an imaginary friend as a kid. Eesh. And I never saw her. It was just me making up stuff. But
did you have any like doubters saying like you're delusional or like have schizophrenia?
I didn't tell anybody.
Oh, okay.
I only told my mom. That was it.
So
I never saw anyone though.
Right.
Like the only thing, and I've never heard anything like that in my life.
And that's all you heard.
That's all I've heard. Yeah, my entire life.
That's insane.
Besides a dream that I had, but I was waking up from a dream, so I don't feel like that counts.
That's
crazy. Yeah, that was definitely. 'Cause, like, my mom, she's seen ghosts and things like that. Like, at my grandma's house, she saw, she was coming out of, like, the kitchen or something, and she saw this, like, old woman, like, vintage woman with, like, a tray.
What the
Like, yeah, because my grandma's house is straight up haunted.
Yeah.
It's been around since, like, Native American
the big
days.
one, right? The big house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
on
local.
old Native American land, and
Yeah, no.
it's a bunch of burial grounds over there. So
Yeah.
there's some weirdish, but yep.
I mean, yeah. I mean, speaking of spirits or whatever, I think after, so my grandma on my dad's side passed in my childhood home, right? And then like afterwards, like I think one time my dad was home alone, and so she moved around a lot. She like moved in with her children like from time to time. So I think she lived with us maybe for the longest period at that point, and she passed in our house. And so like I think one time my dad was home after her death, and he was home alone, and like he heard like I think the door to her room open up upstairs, and then like he heard like some of her favorite like cassettes playing, and I was like, that's crazy. Like I never heard that story till like maybe a handful of years back, and I was like, wow, that's insane. And so like I don't know, good spirits, whatever, looking out for you, or like, you know, just there surrounding you, whatever. It's I think it's a part of life, stuff like that. Yeah.
I think it's yeah, I think it's cool. And plus it's like you know, obviously we want to believe it. We've talked about this before. Like you want to believe in something that might seem ridiculous to believe in.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, what's the harm in I guess thinking you have someone looking out for you sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously don't do anything too stupid,
Yeah.
but I think it's nice to feel like there's another person or something that's there for you besides.
Yeah.
Like someone who's like rooting you on.
Right. Like
Without-
come on.
Like truly unconditionally, like
Yeah.
is there for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. And the idea like that someone's or something has like chosen you
Yeah.
out of the many billions of people in the world.
It's crazy. Yeah, I've never given much thought to it. Honestly, I haven't. But it's like, you know, however many fishing trips I've been on, however far away I've been from home.
Right.
Like whether or not on a fishing trip or something, like it's just like I am going places like alone now. Every time we go fishing, we go to a new place, and it's like something's got to be, you know, watching my back or whatever, and keeping me safe, and you know, bringing me joy or bringing me wisdom through hard times, or like through skunking. Like if we don't catch fish, then it's like it's whatever. We spent time with friends and we bonded. Like something's got to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe now I'll start looking out more, but you know, I think I told you guys that story about after post crew, and I was coming here, and I had the Gatorade bottle in my hand, and I was like, it was empty, and I was like, shit, I need somewhere to throw this away. Like, fuck, there's no recycling cans outside, absolutely none. And then like I was tossing it, and then I hit it up under the underpass, and then I tossed it, and I dropped it, and then like it rolled toward the stairs, towards the backside of the dive, and there's 3 recycling cans and 3 trash cans there. And I was like, well, that worked out really well. Like, something's watching out. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, oh my God. What? And I was like, wow. Like, that's like the smallest minute blessing, but like something is looking out. And that happened like that. And I was like, what the fuck?
Well, if you want a smaller, less mind-blowing example, I walked into the wrong math class, and it turns out that's the math class that technically I was supposed to be in.
Oh, wow.
Because I walked in, and I was like, this is not the right class. And I talked to the prof, and then he was like, well, what's your major? And I told him whatever, and he was like, you want to be in this class. And he's like, the other class doesn't really cover half this material that you'll cover and whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And that was this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just walked into the wrong class.
And now
straight
you're
up.
in it.
It was one room away, and I just went to the wrong. Yep. Mind blowing.
No, it's crazy.
So you initially assigned to the one you walked in accidentally, but wait, it's
No.
She should have been in the one that she walked into accidentally.
No.
So
No.
You went to the correct one.
No. Like,
no, I walked into the wrong classroom
Yeah.
technically. But when I talked to him, he was like, you should be in this class.
Oh, so you switched.
Yeah, I switched over.
Yeah.
But I would have not been in that class, nor would I've ever known it existed had I not accidentally walked into it.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And we're doing all this stuff, like working like with our studio and everything. Like the other class doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait.
And he's like, oh.
You do studio stuff in a math class?
No, our studio.
Oh,
it's a
art studio.
Yeah, it's like a programming thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's just one spiral off. It's like divine lining up of things like that, or had I not said something, like this would have never happened. None of this would have folded the way it would have, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Are there any like situations where you have observed like truly divine powers, like 100% this is definitely God or something?
We had a discussion in our religious practice class. It was from Luke, and it was when after Jesus rose and the two women were walking, and they said, "Oh, like have you not heard?" And Jesus appeared to them, but they couldn't see that it was him, right?
Ooh,
and then
got goosebumps.
And then they were like, "Have you not heard? Like Jesus was crucified. Like he was supposed to be the one to save us or whatever." And then like he kept walking, and then he was gonna keep going, and they said, "No, like the day is already gone. Please come and stay with us and have dinner with us." And he said, "Okay." And then he blessed the bread and he broke it. And as soon as he broke the bread, they realized it was him. And as soon as they realized it was him, he was gone. And so I think that speaks to witnessing truly like divine or holy things. And it's like,
it's a wonderful life.
I took that as, we always say we experience blessings, but they're always blessings in disguise.
Yeah.
And so only after the fact, we realize it. In the moment, we never realize it. But, like Jesus being disappeared in the story, he's gone, but not gone from our experience. Like he's always there, but we just don't see him. And so I don't think I've ever like truly witnessed something like that. It's always after the fact, and maybe like in hindsight or recollection of things like that. Then maybe I'll say that was truly divine. But like, I don't think I can explicitly say.
Yeah, physically seen. I don't think anyone can like.
Right.
Especially in this day and age, it's like physically seen.
Yeah.
What?
No.
But it's always like symbols or things like that point to it.
Like a bunch of like really small chances.
Yeah.
Like
that's more the things that we feel like. That's why we say, what are the odds?
Like,
because a bunch of happenstances happen. And
I mean, I'll be straight up honest with you. Like, so when I was my music teacher, like, is and was very intense, and like, I almost quit music. Like 8th grade came around, and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I think it was 7th grade. And I was like, I'm done with orchestra. I'm never picking up that instrument again. I hate it, whatever. She was like, don't do it. And I was like, no, I want to do it. She's like, don't do it. And I was like, oh, damn it. Well, turns around. Now I'm here on a music scholarship. And it's like, I don't think I'd probably be here if I didn't do any of that.
Wait, I had a very, very similar story with that. It's like, I think I was like 7 or 8, and I was like, piano's boring, I have to practice. I mean, I still think that today, but like, I guess it's like
God and music.
I don't know. It's like the very next like practice, like my piano teacher's like, hey, I feel like you want to try some jazz. You like jazz?
Do you like jazz?
I was like, yes. Oh, this sounds a lot better than Bach or Beethoven. So that's what got me back into it. And if I haven't done that, I definitely would not have done any music.
Right.
As well as being here as well.
Which is like all you do. So like that's crazy.
And like I'm thankful that I just have that huge like long piano background because like I know especially for like Barry, like he's trying to learn music theory. And like it's extremely useful, especially for any music wannabe. Like even if you're a singer, you still need like piano to like learn scales. It's the easiest like. The keyboard is the easiest way to see
what
that is, like music theory wise.
Like even in art too, like I could have taken advice from people that were older than me and not decided to do art or anything like that. And it's like, well, if I didn't take any of those art classes in high school or I didn't do any of that, again, there would be no way I'd be here because of scholarships and opportunities and people that I've met in really weird situations where I'm running into people that, like, I have connections that I somehow don't have any idea how they happen, but I still somehow know people. Like, and that's the thing too. It's like, well, in the moment you're like, oh, I have to do this thing and I have to meet this person. And then it's like you find out this one, nugget of whatever, and you're like, oh, this is a blessing. Like, I don't know where this is going, but like,
wait, like you met someone here?
Well, no, just like, it's complicated. I've just a lot of people like in the music department with like the Minnesota Orchestra, and then like knowing a bunch of artists, and like I feel like I have all these really random connections that I don't know where they're gonna end up someday, but it's just the fact of like, I have this opportunity that's there that it's just sitting there waiting.
Wait, I like in one of my college visits to here, Gustavus, like 2 years ago, I met with a music professor, if you know Dave Stamps.
Mm-hmm. He's
and
awesome.
Like, I think he was the main reason I chose Gustavus in the end, because it's like he's also really like passionate about like the music, I guess, production and composition style, which is what I was trying to focus on. And right now I'm actually in one of his classes called Recording Techniques, and we do recording, like microphones and music.
Well, isn't that just perfect?
I know, so it's like, now we have a really good relationship with each other, so it's like, I don't know, if the admissions board did not pair, like, Dave Stamps and me in that one random visit that I kind of scheduled, like, a couple days before.
Yeah, last minute, yeah.
And none of us would be sitting here right now.
Yes.
Insane in the membrane.
Indeed.
I don't know. Now I'm talking this out loud. It's actually...
Yeah.
It's weird.
That's why I like having a lot of recollection and then like revelation moments with Greta or Margot and stuff like that. It's like the sheer chance of this happening is like
insanity.
We could have missed it by 1 inch, and it would have been a world different.
Not even like a hair.
Yeah.
Like just fleeting moments.
Mm-hmm.
And none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I guess this could all go trailed back to, like, I guess creationism, or like, if there's a bunch of things like that weren't like biological or like chemistry wise, that wouldn't happen, then Earth would never happen.
It's insane.
And like, I think that for me, in my opinion, there's definitely like,
there's got to be something.
God like a designed world of some sort.
Right.
Like, even if you're like not Christian or whatever, I think there's the probabilities, unless you believe in multiple university, which is like a cop out.
There's too many coincidences to just happen.
Exactly.
Like how we are somehow able to form all of these complex mechanisms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
crazy.
Created in God's image. I think, so.
And like, we're so complicated.
Exactly. We don't even know how our brain works.
No.
Mm-hmm.
We have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
We think we do,
and
but
like,
we really don't.
Morals, conscious, all that is like, do we make that up, or like, do we evolve from that, or how did that happen?
Nobody knows.
Nobody.
But it does make you wonder, like, if you look at stuff from back in the day, you're like, oh, they were so stupid. Why did they do that? And it's like, well, I wonder what we're going to say 50 years from now.
I feel like, there's a version now that, 50 years later, someone could say the exact same thing.
But, I mean, through all that, though, there is a common theme, a common thread of that feeling of like, wow, stuff just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's interesting, too. It's like, even though, millions and millions of years have passed and whatever, it's like, there's still a common thread, which is still interesting. And I know I've mentioned too about like, old art and stuff, like Paleolithic times. I think I mentioned to you, Daniel, about just like, we assume that, cave people were dumb and didn't have any civilization. And it's like, if you look at all that cave painting and art and you start going into that, you realize not much has changed. And that's kind of the funny and also the scary thing of it is you're like, we over anticipate how much like,
I mean, maybe it's because we're building upon like what our ancestors built technology wise. So it's like, we're definitely smarter than like people 100 years ago, or like if you did some sort of like calculus or something. You're smarter than like the
Right.
old like mathematicians back in the day or something.
And they were given nothing.
But
so.
like, yeah, so they started with nothing. Like we have a standard we can base off of. So I think it's probably more important to like measure the change from where that time has been and how much you push the world forward in terms of that like
I agree.
legacy kind of thing of measurement.
Do you think that well, this is getting too hypothetical, but do you think they thought they had a guardian angel or some kind of ancestral guidance?
Right? Isn't it a bunch of like
Greek
mythology
stuff
thread?
Like
that? It's like, oh, Zeus.
Well, yeah, no,
or like,
yeah,
especially like Odysseus.
It's like throughout history, like they had
yeah.
ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ancestors, nature guides us.
No, yeah, the book,
like
the Iliad,
yeah,
right?
No.
The Iliad is a good example, where it's like they had Zeus's daughter or something look over.
But it's
Odysseus,
like even in all that time, did they still have a common thread of feeling like there's something that was guiding them? Or
I feel like everyone back in the day was more like religious, depending polytheism, monotheism, whatever, in terms of like
animalistic.
Yeah, and then I think when people like Enlightenment period happens, like science and stuff like that, and then I think it's during especially the Enlightenment era in like the 17th, 18th, 16th century. I forgot exactly where. I guess like the rejection of religion in like the academic sense started to begin.
Yeah, like it, especially like from an anthropologist point of view, like cultures across the world at different times, they all had pyramids. They all had a belief that something came from the sky.
Yeah.
And people visited, and like there was ancestors and a higher form of being that were there.
Oh
yeah, exactly.
God.
Egyptians.
They blow my fucking mind.
But also, it's like I think in like China or like off the coast of Asia, there's pyramids underwater.
Yes.
Yeah, and like there's pyramids, there's monoliths,
it's insane.
There's monuments built to people who came from the sky, and it's like fucking crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, going through like all of these textbooks that I'm reading for my art history class, it's like I'm so glad I chose the prehistoric one, to be honest with you, because like there is so much stuff I'm learning about Egypt and like how complicated stuff is. Like they all made them the same direction. Like each side had it face a different direction. They had like this whole format, and like each temple had like a different underground tunnel system to like represent a certain thing, and like they all had to be like specific dimensions. And then like of course they had the whole mummification process and like how that all worked. I don't know. It's just
like the pyramids isn't like extremely precise.
Yeah.
And like how is that supposed to happen back in the day with their technology of
I don't know.
stones?
Yeah.
That guy?
Extremely precise too.
No, I think that's what I'm saying is that we really, and my teacher mentioned this, like we underestimate though the prowess and
we're doing a meme.
aliens.
Aliens. Great meme.
I'm posting that on Instagram after this. Yeah, I think we totally underestimate though. I think the capacity, because it's
of like human willpower and like
and prowess. I mean, if you got a guy who's up there ruling the front. Okay, but have you ever? Okay, this is a rabbit hole, but I have to go down it because we're here. Yeah. Have you ever heard of oh shoot, what's his name? He goes by Aton, whatever his Akhenaton.
What does he do?
Who it is?
Whose man is this?
He was a pharaoh back in like the 2526 BCE. Don't ask how I memorized that date, but I did. And he was a pharaoh, and he rejected the typical like structure of focusing on many different deities and things in Egypt, and he believed that there was one god, and it was the sun disk, and he was absolutely hated and reviled. And he has a very similar story to Jesus, which is really weird because everybody hated him, and he claimed to like have all this, basically like and be the enlightened one.
Yeah, I'm the savior. Right?
Yep. Yeah. And then he kicked out and got, all the priests hated him, so he went south. And then when he was in the south, he started his own little like group of people who like whatever. I mean, this has been happening for a while.
Right.
But he was martyred eventually.
Oh, no.
Because they were like, "You're crazy, bro. There's not one. There's whatever." But I just think it's interesting. Like even stuff like that, it's like there were these little like things that we don't even think about because we're just like, oh, those uncivilized individuals. Like they had a society.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the main point? Like,
just I don't know, just
like similarities across cultures. And,
yeah.
In religion and and
like
extra natural, supernatural belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there were people questioning deities and like multiple gods even then.
Yeah.
Before Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I mean, at the time, like the Jews are still like there, right? So people do know there's a monotheistic like belief in some cultures, and right?
Yeah.
And like I guess like if you think from like I guess the story of the Bible is like how did people like diverge from that original like I guess just I don't know. I guess people just like it's like oh we gotta worship something and like Moses comes down and is like no stop worshiping a golden dog or something. You know that story? No, like where basically Moses trying to lead his people through the desert. Oh, I think away from after they escaped from the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he was trying to get like the 10 Commandments from the mountain.
Yep.
But then everyone's like, "Oh, Moses definitely died or something. We gotta figure out our own God." And I don't know. I guess that's just our instinct back in the day, just to have something out there.
Yeah, it's like religion is a in part a coping mechanism for uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to think now today because we got all this like
technology,
and stuff. But it's just interesting.
Yeah.
To think about.
Akhenaten, that was his name.
I recognize the name. Akhenaten, yeah.
Yeah. So Akhenaten, he ruled for 17 years and died. Well, he was murdered, but yeah.
I swear I heard Joe Rogan say that name or something. I swear he said that name.
Because he was around, let's see. He was around, 20. Oh. Maybe I was wrong. It wasn't 25, 26. That was Narmar.
So Akhenaten is around
13. So later. But still, there's a lot of theories about him being like having a depiction very, 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 very similar to Jesus, which is kind of interesting to think about. And then he was, because he was hating so much, hated. He was hating so much.
Hater.
He was hated so much by people. Like all of his statues that they made of him were like distinctly misshapen. So he looked, I would say, like a sexless being. Like he didn't look like a man really, didn't really look like a woman because they were like God's neither a man nor it was
interesting.
It's weird, honestly.
Interesting.
But that was a rabbit hole.
Insane.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Guardian angels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely think they exist.
Yeah. Are we getting to the apple of the day is what you're saying?
I think we're getting to the apple.
About that like guardian angel thing, is it like do you think like the people in heaven, like God, like you can get the ticket to go to the earth to visit whoever, or like how does that work?
I don't know. I don't know.
No, I mean I wouldn't know. We would not know anyways because like it's the afterlife.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like to think they keep tabs always, but it's like sometimes they'll appear.
You got 5 minutes.
They'll appear when they need to.
Right.
But they'll both mostly be lurking in the background or something. Yeah. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Like they get little notifications, like hey,
he's acting up again.
In heaven? Wait.
Maybe
he's acting up again.
You don't
Did
know.
the technology like catch up with
their technology is far more advanced than ours. They don't even need notifications. They just have like a notification in their head. It's just like bing. Oh crap.
It's time to worship.
It's like a automatic video player that pops up and they're like, oh, I gotta watch this person. Keep tabs on them.
They're doing.
It's like they're eating and all of a sudden it's just like bam.
Time to go to work.
It's gonna take a while to like talk about what heaven could be like. Anyways, we probably end it. So.
Heaven.
Right. So What is the apple of the day? Your apple of the day, Greta.
All right. My apple of the day is that you're loved and people love you. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what you think. If you don't think there's a guardian angel, that's fine. Cool. Personally, I like to think that someone's there out for you. Mm-hmm. But regardless, your guardian angel might be on Earth. It might be someone who's looking out for you. It might be someone who cares about you. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, you're never alone. Ever.
Yeah. You are loved by a force truly unknown and, most of the time unseen. Mm-hmm. And someone always loves you unconditionally, no matter if they're here physically or not, And so just always remember that someone's looking out for you and rooting for you.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Always.
Jesus. Guardian angels.
That's
the spirits.
Jesus.
Yep. All right.
Absolutely.
Episode 5.
Right. And that's a wrap.